All right, what's up, everyone? Kevin Leslie and solo edition of the At 1000 podcast. It's been a minute for one of these solo editions, and I'm very excited because this is one of my favorite topics. The three truths of college rowing recruiting. One of my favorite topics. It was a newsletter at the end of September. I meant to create a solo edition. Here we are finally in early November. But the three truths of college rowing recruiting. And the reason I love this topic is because I think it's not only incredibly valuable for high school rowers who are actively in the recruiting process, whether it's now or will soon be in the next 6 months to a year or whatever, but also for the families who are going about this process, the parents who are going about this process with their athlete and want to actually understand, okay, what are the things that I should be looking out for along with my son or daughter as we navigate this process. And these three truths to me are three things that I think can save families time, money, stress, and just a lot of energy as they navigate this process with just a little bit more clarity than they otherwise would have as they get the overwhelming flood of information from the boathouse on the banks of the river, from other parents, from athletes, and whispered down the lane at the boathouse. Here are three things that I think athletes and parents can kind of use as things to revisit as they navigate this process. It doesn't mean everything's going to be up for interpretation, but things that you can really latch onto as you go about this process. Again, whether you're your son or daughter or you as a high school rower are a freshman, sophomore, junior, even a senior, right? Whatever it may be, these are things that you can latch onto in this process. So I'm excited. This might be a little bit longer one than my normal solo editions, but let's jump in. Let me list off the three truths first, and then we're going to break them down one by one. But the three truths, and just before I get to that, understand that these are broad idea or things to fall back on to navigate. But some people's experiences might be different. I'm not speaking for every school. I'm not speaking for every experience. These are just broad ideas that people can use for navigating this process, but it doesn't mean that there aren't certain situations that might be a little bit contrary to some of these. But with that, number one, it's about the school first. It's about the school first. And just to provide a little summary, you will not row your way into college. Academics matter, but also once you're there, it's got to be based around, or when you are navigating this process, it's got to be based around your pillars, right? What about the school attracts you to it, not just the allure of the rowing program. Number two, Division I is not for everyone. Just because you can get recruited to a Division I program doesn't mean you should. And you should consider other options, other Division I programs, other pursuits. Just because you can get recruited Division I doesn't mean you should always. And then number three, as I pull up my recent my newsletter that this was originally sent for, team culture and fit. Team culture and program fit. And in summary, you're going to be spending more time with your college rowing team than any professor or any of your friends who aren't rowers. You're going to be spending more time with your coaches and with your teammates than anyone. And if they don't feel like family, if they don't feel like people that you can spend hours upon hours a week with, how does that affect your experience away from the boathouse? So those are the three. We're going to dive into them one by one, but it's about the school first. Division I is not for everyone. I love that one. I'm going to have a lot of fun talking about that. And then team culture and fit. So let's jump in. Let me just scroll back up. So it's about the school first, right? So The reason I want to start with this, because constantly I'm getting athletes and parents who come to me and say, "Hey, I want to use rowing to get into a better school. I want rowing to be a tool that I can use." Right? I get this feedback or these answers all the time when I ask why are we here, right? What do we talk, or what's our long-term goal, right? I want to use rowing to get into a school. The first piece is rowing alone is not going to get you into college. You still have to have a certain level of, unless again, leaving extracurriculars and all these other resume builders that add in the admissions process, and build that resume when it comes to actually getting in, right? Obviously, rowing's a big piece to that. But if you are not meeting certain academic thresholds at a school, the likelihood that rowing alone is going to help circumvent that process and get you over those thresholds and make you attractive in the admissions process are very unlikely. You still have to have the grades in order to, you still have to be in the range grades wise in order to best position yourself in the admissions front. If you are a little bit lower on the grade side, well, you better be a pretty attractive recruit to these coaches for them to go to bat for you in the admissions process in some capacity, because that influence is much more limited than people probably think, right? So again, especially if you're pursuing Ivy Leagues or some of these higher end Division I program or Division III programs or great Division I programs on the academic front, if you do not meet those academic standards, right? If you're Ivy League and you're not within the academic index, you're going to have a very challenging time being admitted to the school itself, right? So that's one piece, right? Grades matter, make that your focus. In addition to that, as we alluded to before, you want to know that if rowing, and I've talked about this in previous podcasts, but if rowing was taken from underneath you, you want to know that you still can see yourself at that school for 4 years. You want to know that even away from the boathouse, I chose the right school in terms of geographic location, right? My pillars, right? The pillars that you base your foundation off of that are completely separate from rowing. You still want to know that geographically you're in the right area, right? If you don't love the cold, the Northeast might not be the greatest for you from November through March, right? If you want to be close to home and you live here in Philadelphia, the West Coast might not be the best place for you, right? So those are pillars, right? Proximity to a city. Do I want urban environment, hybrid, or do I want to be in a more rural college town? Academic focus, two fronts to that. Does it have the field that I want to study, something I'm actually genuinely interested in? Some people might not know, right? But does it have areas that I think I can actually excel at or want to pursue after college? But also academically, would I be able to handle the workload at a school that is very rigorous in terms of their academic curriculum, in terms of their academic workload, right? If I'm trying to go, right, if I'm a C-level student in high school and I'm trying to pursue some of these schools that are, right, again, say you're a very talented rower and you can influence a little bit in the admissions process, or your coaches can influence a little bit more in the admissions process. Well, if you're a very talented rower who may have a little bit more pull and you can get into a certain school, well, if you're a C-level student in high school, do you feel like you are going to thrive in that academic environment once you also stack on the 20-hour week minimum requirement that goes with being a Division I athlete? That's stuff that we're going to talk about here in a couple minutes. You want to make sure that you can thrive there for 4 years on the academic front, because even once you get to college, if you don't have the grades, guess what? You're not going to be rowing very long. So it's about the school first, right? Identify your pillars, base a lot of your decision off of those pillars that are completely separate from rowing. Number 2, Division I is not for everyone. Division I is not for everyone. I love this one because, hot take, to me, it's not that hard. Again, relative, take it with a grain of salt. It's not that hard to get recruited to row for a Division I program. There are 90 plus Division I women's programs in NCAA rowing. There are many, right? Men's rowing's a little bit smaller, but there are numerous Division I programs on the men's side. There are, right, and within that you have the haves and you have the have-nots. And honestly, if you are a high school rower, and especially on the women's side, if you're breaking 8 minutes for 2K by the end of your junior winter, there's going to be teams that want you to join their roster because rowing has a lot of athletes on their team, right? It's a high participation sport, and there aren't that many high school rowers who are going sub 8 in high school. Same thing on the men's side. Rowing is a high participation sport at the college level. You're talking about rosters of 40 to 50 to 60. There aren't that many rowers at the high school level going under 650 for 2,000 meters. So if you're a high school boy breaking 650 or a high school girl breaking 8 minutes, you're going to get communication and requests for phone calls and all these different things from Division I programs. The question is that the pursuit that makes the most sense for you? Because again, 96 Division I programs, honestly, most athletes are listing, when I talk to them initially, they're listing probably 15 to 25, right? They're completely oblivious to the other, 70 programs out there that exist, right? On the men's side, they're listing the Ivy Leagues and the other top, schools and programs that are in the, A, B, and C final at the IRA, but they're forgetting about all the other ones out there, right? So there's a very diverse pool of available programs out there, but is that the pursuit that you want? And because the reason I bring that up is, okay, well, just because I can get recruited to a Division I program, right? Let's speak more on the women's side, right? We'll start with that, right? Just because I can break 8 minutes and some school that is reaching out to me is asking for my information and wants to set up a phone call and this and that, and we're having great conversation, and they're telling me, hey, I can get into the university based off my academics, and we would love to offer you a spot on our team. That doesn't mean that is guaranteed to be the best experience for you once you get there, right? If you're 7:45 walking in the door at X program and the majority of their roster is under 7:20, or they're recruiting freshman athletes who are breaking 7:10, well, guess what? It's going to be a very bumpy ride for an athlete who's 7:45 to actually be able to have the experience that they want, where they can contribute to other to the team and get faster and all these different things, right? There are some of these well-oiled machines who are constantly bringing in top-level recruits, where an athlete who's truly not committed to that experience and is walking in at 7:45 is going to get drowned out every single year by more and more recruits that are coming in, and they may never get voted. They may never make a varsity 8 or the NCAA roster or whatever it may be, but they're attracted to the brand name, right? They're attracted to the idea of rowing for this program rather than, hey, is this actually the best experience for me? Am I willing to commit 20 hours a week to a pursuit, and I may never have the opportunity to race in a meaningful event? Those are things that we want to think about. So that's why, just because, hey, programs can have me on their roster doesn't mean that is a worthwhile pursuit for me, because again, rowing at the college level is a high participation sport. Teams need athletes, right? They need bodies. Doesn't mean every single one of them has the chance of actually being successful and making a boat. If that's something that you want, right? If you want to be a part of a brand name, if you want to be a part of a dream school, even though you may never have the chance to contribute at a high level to the team, then again, go for it, right? Now you're part of the roster, you get the gear, you get to say you're at this program and rowing for this team. You just have to understand what that journey looks like. Or if you're the type of athlete who gets very excited by that prospect, you're like, hey, I row for a tiny team. We do, 2Ks a year. We never erg. We don't even have a winter training, and I'm 7:45, but I really think that it can be a lot faster if I'm in the right environment. And you realistically think that you can push yourself into that upper tier of recruit, rock on. By all means, that's the path to go. If you're an athlete who really wants that level of drive and commitment in your college rowing experience, oftentimes I see it as the opposite, right? I see it as the athlete who loves the brand and they want to be a part of that team, whether or not they are actually willing to put in the work to actually contribute. Just something to think about, right? On the Division I side. Also with that, I highlighted it before, but 20 hours a week, you are stacking on a full-time job in addition to getting good grades, having a personal life, all these different things. Me, I love it. That's exciting, right? If you are someone who doesn't want that level of commitment, required commitment to your academic or to your college experience, just on the athletic side, well, then maybe you want to pursue other routes. And in regards to those other routes, and I think actually one last thing on Division I highlighted the teams that are recruiting consistently athletes in the 720s, athletes in the 710s, some of the best athletes all over the country. There are 90 plus Division I women's rowing programs. So this doesn't mean Division I is not for everyone. It more so means the top of Division I may not be for everyone and actually isn't for everyone. But you also want to think about there are teams that have and there are a lot that have not, right? Or are limited in terms of the recruits that they can bring in and all these different things. There might be programs out there in Division I that can give you that kind of drive and that intensity and the 20-hour week commitments, but also you have a realistic opportunity to make a top boat by the end of your junior year or senior year. Rather than them bringing in athletes who are, between 710 and 720 every year, they might be bringing in athletes who are between 730 and 745. And if you're coming in and you're just under 8, well, okay, I can make that roster and I can develop. And by the time I'm a junior or senior, I might be 740, 735, 730. And the same thing exists on the men's front. You have kind of the upper top teams that are looking for athletes who are under 620, maybe even 615. Then you have the teams that are looking for athletes who are between 625 and 640. And again, if you're an athlete who's breaking 7 or 650 and you find a roster or you find a team where, hey, you know what? Most of the boat average is, 625, 630 or 620 or whatever. You have a realistic opportunity to go to that school, develop, thrive, be a Division I athlete, and make a top boat by your junior, senior year, right? So separate the top of the top teams from the rest, both on the men's side and the women's side. But again, if you're not committed to that lifestyle of 20-hour weeks, feeling like you're stacking a full-time job on top of your academic workload, then you might want to investigate different routes. And which again is up to you, right? I love that, right? I think that's great, right? More rowing, training. I'm not a classroom guy. I would love to be on the water or in the yard room, right? Many people are wired that way. Others might want a little bit more balance, right? The ability to do other things in their college experience. That's where D3 comes in, right? Both on the men's side and the women's side, there are Division III rowing programs that would absolutely crush 60, 70% of the Division I programs out there from a performance standpoint. Because honestly, from probably, just a theory is that the kids that are getting recruited to go to college and row are probably coming from, they're probably excelling in the classroom in high school. They might be coming from good schools and this and that, right? It's rowing, right? They might be coming from, rowing's very dominant with private schools or schools in good, all these areas that really emphasize high performing academics. They're probably not going to sacrifice division for high achieving academics. So these Division III programs get really, really, really talented rowers every year. And they, on a much more limited practice schedule, right? Because Division III system is set up to provide a lot more balance. Even though they do work hard and they do practice, a lot of it is more limited than Division One or more self-driven than Division One, especially in the winter. But they're recruiting these really high-quality athletes every single year, and they're putting together boats that would absolutely smoke a lot of Division Three or the Division One programs. Right? Compare times at NCAAs, compare times at the IRA, compare times at the head of the Charles, where they actually race each other. There are such good Division Three programs out there that provide that balance between academics and athletics that often get overlooked because a lot of kids are like, hey, I want to row D1. Understand what D1 means, right? Understand that there are the haves and the have-nots in D1, and also understand that even though it's D3 in the sport of rowing, where a lot of people understand that you're not pursuing it for professional rowing, you can go D3, get an amazing academic or get an amazing education at a an elite academic school and go just as fast as D1 programs, if not faster. That's an avenue that is open, right? Don't be afraid to explore that as well, both on the women's side and the men's side, especially on the men's side where D1 rowing programs are much more limited. So Division One is not for everyone. Understand that lifestyle and the fact that just because you can get recruited doesn't mean you should go D1. Just because you can get recruited to a D1 program doesn't mean you should row for a D1 program. Understand the lifestyle, understand the experience that you're going to have, understand where you want your contributions to be once you're actually at that program. So that, again, is that the pursuit that you're willing to pursue, or are you just chasing the fact that you can say that you row for a Division One program? Just understand that, reflect it. All right. I love that one. That's a fun one, right? We could do a whole separate podcast on that. Number 3. All right. So let me scroll down. Team culture and program fit. This is another important one because, and it's very similar to the school first one, right? About the school first, but bringing it a little bit more narrowly focused into the world or into just your program. Team culture and program fit. The rowing program, right? Especially Division One, right? But even D3, you're going to be spending more time with your teammates than you will with anyone else at the university, right? Practice 6 days a week, lift sessions, breakfast after practice, social, events on the weekends, whatever it may be. You're going to spend time in the library even, right? Usually you tend to find the teammates, right? That's your group. You're going to be spending more time with your rowing teammates than you will with anyone else at the university. You want to know that these are people that I could see myself hanging out with and enjoying and want to be friends with, not only now, but also after, right? After college. Your coach, you're going to be spending more time with your coach than you will with any professor at the university. Again, 20-hour weeks or D3, whatever it may be, you're seeing your coach every day, right? Or you're hearing from them every day. And even in the summer, you're hearing from them. You want to know that team, that culture aligns with your values as a high school athlete, with your values and what you're hoping to get out of your college experience, right? You want to know that, these athletes are people that I could see myself, really enjoying being with them 7 days a week. You want to know that coach is a leader and takes their job seriously enough that you can look to them as a mentor or as someone that you can go to in good days and bad days. You want to know that coach is someone who truly has your best interests. And is that an environment that you want to be in for 4 years and can see yourself being successful 4 years? And I saw this fact or this stat, when I was just poking around earlier today, but 30% of NCAA athletes transfer or quit before, their sport before graduation, right? 30% of NCAA athletes transfer or quit before graduation when they're at college. And I've seen this, right? As a college coach, I've seen attrition Attrition can be very high in rowing, at least higher than maybe a lot of other sports, because again, it's not a glamour sport. It's cold mornings. It's hard work every day in and day out. It's selection. It's times and scores and rankings and this and that. Like, it's a very demanding sport just in the sport itself. That doesn't mean that these athletes are quitting or transferring because of the training. They know that. They know they're signing up for that. They understand that. Oftentimes 30%, if I had to predict, a lot of it is probably based off of program fit, team culture, don't love to coach, whatever it may be. Things that you can kind of make yourself aware of early, in your visits, in your communication with athletes who are currently on the roster and all these different things. You can get a pretty good idea of, is this a program that I can see myself thriving for 4 years, and it's not going to be, an inhibitor to my mental health, and the coach has alignment in their vision and my vision, and I can see myself being successful in here. The coach's door is wide open, and I can go in and talk to them about whatever it may be. Or again, all these different things. That's program fit and team culture, and you want to make sure that you understand that prior to committing yourself for 4 years, because that's the goal, right? The goal in the college rowing recruiting process is to find a school, to find a rowing program that you can contribute to for 4 years. That should be your goal. I want to combine a great education fueled with or focused on development and finding a job after school, or a career fit after school. But I want to couple that experience with continuing my passion for rowing and competing and being a student athlete for another 4 more years after high school. And I want to be a part of that for 4 years and contribute to that for 4 years, and know that I'm creating an amazing college experience, but also a lifelong connection to that team and to that coach and to that program well beyond my college years. That should be the intent. Coupling the education with the amazing things that come with rowing that have nothing to do with winning races and all these different things. That should be the combo that athletes are seeking. It shouldn't be, hey, I just want to use rowing as a tool to get into college. No offense, rowing's not that in demand in the missions to be like, hey, even though your grades are terrible, we're going to have you, we're going to accept you, right? Just because you're a fast 2K, we're going to accept. Like, that shouldn't be your intent, because if that's your pursuit, if that external allure is your pursuit, well, once you get to college, you're probably going to quit inside a year anyway, because you made a decision based off of an external motivator, not, hey, I love this team, I love this program, this coach seems like someone I can be with for 4 years, and I want to continue my passion all through college because it means that much to me. So again, there's my ramble. The 3 truths, right? The 3 truths of the college rowing recruiting process. Again, these aren't all, not every event and not everyone's situation fits exactly into these. But again, when you think about, it's about the school first, right? As number 1, Division 1 is not for everyone as number 2, and then team culture and program fit number 3. If you center a lot of your search around those 3 truths, then navigating this process both as an athlete and as parents, as a family, you're going to save yourself a lot of time, a lot of stress, a lot of overwhelm, and all these different things, because it is an overwhelming process with a lot of noise. These can block out some of that noise so that you can focus on the path ahead. That's all I got. Again, this was the newsletter article that came out, or newsletter that I sent out end of September. If you want to actually get those timely, not a podcast a month later, go to the website, subscribe to the newsletter. I try to get them out monthly with just good information. And then usually I center a lot of these solo episodes off of that. So if you want to get access to some of that stuff early, go to the website, subscribe to the newsletter. Any questions about the recruiting side, reach out, let me know. I love this conversation. It's really fun for me in helping athletes identify the right fit for them where they can have long-term success. So with that, enjoy your day. Keep training hard. Talk to you soon. Peace.